Hello everyone, my name is Chris and welcome to the Casual Gamer. Today I'm here to share my impressions for Armored Core 6 Fires of Rubicon. I played on the PC version using an RTX 4090. I was able to play in 4K with max settings and max ray tracing and was able to maintain 60 FPS pretty much throughout what I played. There were a couple of moments where it would drop a frame or two, but other than that it ran very well. And I mean, it just dropped literally just one frame, maybe two. Obviously, your game may vary depending on your own specs and your PC. I recommend looking at just other sources to see if your specs are going to be able to handle the game or not. And obviously, if you're playing on console, it'll be different as well. I'll be upfront. I have not finished the game yet, but I just wanted to offer my impressions of the game so far and maybe help some of you make a decision if this is the game for you or not. I know there's lots of reviews out there. I just want to throw my input in there. Just to give you guys another source to look at for information. Also, the footage in the video is within the first chapter of the game as to limit any spoilers for some of you who have not played it already or have gotten past the first chapter. Let me just say right off the bat, yes, this game is good, and yes, it is very difficult in some parts of the game, mainly the boss encounters. So for those of you who like Dark Souls level difficulty, I think you're going to have a lot of enjoyment here if you're looking for that same FromSoft familiarity. Armored Core 6 is an interesting one for me, as I know pretty much nothing about the franchise. I think the last one I played was Armored Core 2 on the PS2, and I remember very little of it. In fact, I remember almost nothing about it. When this game was announced, I knew I had to try it out like many of you, and I thought it was pretty much going to be a Dark Souls game with mechs instead of in this fantasy universe. A mech Souls, if you will. And well, this game is definitely not a Souls game, but it absolutely carries the same difficulty, like I said, especially in those boss encounters. The game is not open world, nor do you have open areas to freely explore like you would expect from something if you like Bloodborne or Dark Souls if you played those. Armored Core 6 is something more like Monster Hunter, or maybe even more like Ace Combat, as you kind of select the mission that you want and work in the area until you complete the mission. You start the game off in a tutorial mission that teaches you, the basic controls of movement and combat. The controls did take me a minute to get used to, as I often would boost myself into locations I didn't want to be in, and as I was trying to dodge and fly around, and it kind of became a bit frustrating. However, once you get the hang of it, and you get the hang of it pretty fast, it does feel amazing. It feels fast, it feels responsive, and the whole gameplay itself just feels great. However, even though the first mission is pretty much a tutorial, the game does let you know really fast that this isn't going to be a walk in the park. At the end of the mission, you will fight a boss that will really test you, and I have to say it took me more tries than I'd like to admit to beat that boss. But it was a great opportunity to figure out different mechanics and how to approach that boss fight. And once you found, at least for me, what ended up working really well, it just kind of clicked. I'm like, oh, this wasn't actually too bad. However, while you're trying to learn those things, the bosses can feel a bit overwhelming, especially this particular boss that just kind of gets dropped in you in the tutorial. It's kind of a big wake-up call to, hey, expect this to have some challenge to it. And then once you get out of that tutorial, you will be brought to your hangar, which, going back to Ace Combat or Monster Hunter, this is kind of where you're going to select your next mission or customize your mech and prepare for that mission. You can also do training missions. This is where you, like I said, customizing your armored core and a few more things that we'll talk about a bit later. And please do the training missions. Not only will it further teach you useful skills and controls, it's also going to reward you with gear and weapons and just delve into a little bit more of the mechanics and what certain gear does for you. They don't take very long and they're not very difficult, so don't neglect them. Do them as they come. I think it's going to really help you a lot. Speaking of gear and weapons, those of you that really like customization, you're really going to love what you have here. There are so many options for changing every aspect of your armored core, from the head, the torso, the arms, the legs, the weapons, the colors, and not just the base color. You can really go in depth and change the specific colors of each part and the weapons, and you can even change the look, like how metallic you want your armored core to look, and even how much wear and tear is on it. So you can really customize your armored core to how you want it to look. And I actually took a little bit of inspiration from Gundam, and I kind of modeled my armored core after the color schemes of Gundam. The customization actually kind of reminded me a bit of Anthem a little bit, but don't get me wrong, it's much better here. There's a lot more options, but it does have kind of that same feel as far as what you can really customize in your armored core. As you progress through the missions, more items will be unlocked or available to purchase for you. And one thing I found interesting too was the leg customization is such an interesting feature. Is there are different leg styles that actually will help you do different things and affect like the weight of things you can carry, weapons you can carry. One of the legs helps you actually get to airborne faster. Another one actually allows you to hover in the air. And another is simply a tank bottom that allows you to stack up some serious firepower. And I actually really enjoyed that one. If you want to be more mobile, there's something for that. If you want to be, kind of like me and be a lot tankier, there's something for that too. There's a lot to mess around with. And I think a lot of you are going to enjoy that aspect of the game. I will warn you now. Customizing your armored core with different body parts and weapons is very important. I'm sure you could play through the game with one type of build, but it will be very difficult. You're going to find that some encounters in the game are much easier with the right weapon and body parts equipped. The game encourages you to swap parts out, as you can even swap out parts in the mission. Or I guess should I say when you are defeated, you'll have that ability to go back and reassemble your mech before restarting at the checkpoint. The bosses in the game are difficult, and for those of you who have played Souls games like Elden Ring, the Dark Souls, Bloodborne, you're going to find bosses are very similar in this game. They're tough, but once you learn the mechanics and what gear works well against them, you're going to find that it's a very fair challenge, which, believe me, I know it doesn't feel that way at first, but it does become more fair as you get more familiar with the fight itself. The game is broken down into chapters with various missions. Some of them, I won't lie, are pretty easy, while others they're going to put your abilities to the test. And at the end of each mission, you're going to be rewarded with cash, which will obviously be used to buy new parts for your armored core. Missions are replayable, and they'll reward you with money each time you do it, so you can actually do a bit of grinding if you're stuck on a mission and need to buy some new gear. I should also mention that although you can switch weapons and gear in a mission, you cannot buy new gear in a mission. So if you get stuck on a mission and want to buy a new weapon or something that you think will help you be better, you will have to quit the mission and do it again rather than just from the checkpoint if you were just swapping parts. So take that as you will. If you feel like you need to grind some missions to just unlock everything that is available to you at that point so that you have that ability to swap weapons without having to quit the mission entirely, just be aware of that. On top of the main missions, you will have something called arena battles that you will eventually unlock that act kind of like a duel with another armored core that will reward you with what's called OST chips. And these chips can actually further enhance your armored core, like allowing you to replace your shoulder gear with additional weapons. There are quite a few things to unlock, some armor-based stuff and various other things, which can actually help you quite a bit. So they're worth doing. I do all the arena battles that show up when they're available because having those chips really does help a lot. Now, there is a story here, but to be honest, I have not cared much for it. Maybe it's because I'm missing context from previous titles, or if it's just because I don't really understand it. It does give you pieces, and as you get talked to by your handler and other characters that lend voices to the story, you kind of figure out enough of what's going on. And I'm sure a lot of you Armored Core fans will have no problem understanding it and enjoy it. But for me, it was mainly just I wanted to get into the missions. I wanted to fight other Armored Cores and just enjoy the gameplay. And the gameplay is very good. And again, as someone who has not really played a whole lot of Armored Core, I can't speak for how it compares to older titles, or if you are a fan of the older titles, if this new entry is good for you. What I will say is that I think it is another great game from Software. It's fun, it's full of action, it feels satisfying, and it's also incredibly challenging. I would say that if you were a fan of the difficult action that is within Dark Souls and Bloodborne and those games, I think you're going to enjoy this. I think this is a must-buy for you, and I think you're really going to have a fun time. I also think that if you're just a fan of big robots and mechs or Gundams or Transformers. I think you're going to enjoy this as well. And I think it's worth giving it a shot. Even if, the difficulty of maybe FromSoft games aren't really up your alley, I think you will still find a lot of enjoyment in this game. And then for those of you who really aren't into FromSoft games or that level of difficulty, I'm not sure if this game is going to win you over to that. And it may be worth a wait for a sale for you just to wait and try it out. But I think, again, if you give it a shot and you really just push through and just understand that you're going to lose, you're going to die. But if you stick with it, you're going to learn the game and you will find that enjoyment there. And believe me, it can be frustrating at times, but I think you'll get it. And if you're someone who doesn't really like difficult fights, like really difficult fights, or just not a fan of the Souls type combat, it may be worth it for you to just wait for a sale and then try it out. I think the game is definitely worth a buy, especially on PC where I tested it on and it runs amazing. And I haven't heard really any issues on console, so I'm assuming it runs well there too. I think it's definitely worth a pickup. And I think if you enjoy From Software games, I think you're going to really enjoy this one as well. Anyways, guys, that's just some of my impressions. I just wanted to get a quick video out and just go over some of the things about the game. But let me know what you guys think in the comments. What you liked about the game, what you disliked, if you have played it already, or if this video has helped you make a decision if you want to pick the game up or not. So thank you. Thanks again for watching, and I will see you guys on the next video.